Hello, my name is Captain Jonathan Holloway. I'm a retired British naval officer and I've been lecturing on board cruise ships for just over 2 years. My subject areas include my own naval career. I served in nuclear submarines in the Cold War. For 2 years, I was a senior engineer in the Royal Yacht Britannia. And then for 4 years, I lived in Russia as the British naval attaché. So some interesting times. I also talk about naval and military history and cybersecurity. The latter because I have an ongoing role with the UK's National Cybercrime Unit, which is part of the National Crime Agency, where I advise them on Russia and Russian cybercrime. So far, I've lectured on board ships of Cunard, Viking, Fred Olsen, and Saga, but I'm looking forward to expanding that list. I'm now going to share my screen with you and talk you through just a few of the slides that I use in my presentations to give you a flavour of what I have to offer. This first slide is from my presentation on life in the Royal Yacht Britannia, and it shows the yacht's officers in July 1995 when we were at Cowes off the Isle of Wight as the guard ship for the Cowes sailing regatta. It had been a tradition from the time of Queen Victoria that the Royal Yacht was present at the Cowes regatta, and so to mark this, we took a photograph very much in the Victorian style, in black and white, and with most of the officers looking into the middle distance rather than directly at the camera. Next, we have a slide from my presentation on a submarine rescue I was involved with when I was living in Russia. A Russian mini-submarine got caught in fishing nets off Kamchatka, which is a peninsula way over in the Russian Far East. We flew out a remotely operated vehicle from the UK Submarine Rescue Service, that's the yellow thing you can see in the background, and managed to cut the fishing nets and rescue the 7-man crew with barely 3 or 4 hours of air remaining. And this is us celebrating with our Russian colleagues and drinking a bottle of single malt whiskey that had been kept just for the occasion. That's me in the bottom left. The next slide is from my presentation on Nelson at Copenhagen, which is about the battle in April 1801. While I use pictures and illustrations from the time, I also like to use modern technology. And here you can see where I've photoshopped a satellite image of modern day Copenhagen to remove all the later additions, such as reclaimed land, to show what the terrain was like at the time of the battle. And as the slide builds, you can see how Nelson's fleet in blue had to run a gauntlet between the Danish ships to the left and a dangerous sandbank to the right, so they could get up and attack the fort that was protecting the city. And my final slide is from my lecture on cybersecurity, and it's information, video that the National Crime Agency has managed to acquire from the social media accounts of a group of cyber criminals who live and work in Moscow, and they steal hundreds of millions of pounds. And they're allowed to operate and they live in plain sight because they're protected by the Russian government, because firstly, they don't steal money from Russian banks, and secondly, where necessary, they help out the Russian state by doing cybercrime and cyber spying for them. And so this clip of video shows them driving their expensive Lamborghinis around the Moscow Inner Ring Road and then the Moscow State University. That's the end of my short presentation. I hope it's been of interest, and I hope that I can work with your cruise line in the future. Thank you.